invest in and follow principles. That has proved to be pretty successful.
This landlord's going to make almost $2 million over the next 12 years for doing something one time. And that's like residual. This guy's got another 7 retail spaces and he's got 10 stories of apartments above it. And I'm like, man, I'm on the wrong side of the coin, right? I need to own real estate, not broker it.
You start doing deals that are absolutely life-changing, like that put you on the path for intergenerational wealth.
Welcome to the Real Estate HomeRuns podcast. I am your host, Louis Van der Horst. This is a podcast for busy professionals who want to learn about passive income producing strategies that have helped others crush it in the real estate world. Whether you are a new or seasoned real estate investor, this is the podcast for you. All right, everyone. I'm super excited for today's interview. We have Nick Perry, probably one of the biggest wholesalers that I have gotten to know. And Nick, thank you for being here.
Honored, excited to be on with you guys, excited to help provide value and share some of my experience to shortcut a lot of the mistakes that investors are making. So let's do it.
Awesome. And since I learned about Nick through John, I asked John to join me on this episode. And John was like, Louis, you got to check out this guy named Nick. He's doing some impressive things with nationwide wholesaling. And Nick dabbles into different sources of passive income too. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know that and hear about your mindset. And John, I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here and an honor. I'm really humbled. This is my first time ever being on an interview, and to be here with Nick Perry is phenomenal. So I'm really excited about that. And I thank you both.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So Nick, give us some introduction about you. Put it in your own words. How would you describe what you do and where you see your life in a few years from now?
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that. So I grew up, pretty much from nothing, middle-class America. My parents divorced when I was younger. I lived with my mom till I was about 12, 13. And, it was cookie cutter, middle-class America. And then she moved to a different city. And so I wanted to stay at the same school. And I got sent to live with my dad. My dad loved my dad. I got a great relationship with both my parents. But, back then my dad, was barely making it. So I went from living in middle-class America to basically nothing. My dad could barely make rent. Groceries were scarce. I was sleeping on a couch in a 1-bedroom apartment in the middle of the hood. And that was really when, I kind of got the entrepreneurial bug because, all my friends, had nice things. They lived in nice houses. And I was, we were really struggling at the time. I remember opening up the refrigerator and there would be a bottle of mustard and some Diet Pepsi. And that would be it. I was literally starving at a young age. And so I got to experience that poverty firsthand. And what that did to me was it really pissed me off at the time. Not having money really pissed me off. It triggered something in me that made me never want to be that way. And I promised myself I would never live in lack like this. And so what I did, I realized my dad, he's doing the best he can, but he can't help me. So I got to help myself. And so I started working from a really young age, 14 years old. Got a job. I'd work every day after school at the dollar store on the weekends. And I had a bunch of jobs through high school. And then right out of high school, I became a personal trainer. I barely made it through high school. I didn't have the grades to get into college. So what was I going to do? I liked playing sports, when I was a kid. So personal trainer was a natural progression. And I did really well as a personal trainer. But I realized that all the people that I was training all had way more money than me. I'm working 60 hours a week as a personal trainer with a full book of clients, and I'm only making 60 grand a year. And all my clients are pulling up in Bentleys and Mercedes, and they're going on trips with their family to St. Lucia. And I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. So I would interview all my clients. Hey, what did you do? How'd you get started? And the recurring theme was they owned a business or they're in sales to some capacity. And so that was a wake-up call for me that being an employee and working 9 to 5 is not the route to achieving financial freedom. And one of my clients recruited me to come work with them doing outside sales. So that was my first endeavor in entrepreneurship. So I was doing franchise sales. So I was traveling around the country selling frozen yogurt franchises. And
frozen yogurt.
Yeah, where you make your own cup and put it on the scale and measure, that kind of place. And I would travel around, and I got a lot of great experience from doing that and just in the business world. And 2014, that kind of fad of the frozen yogurt trend really died out. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do next. And rather than stay in my home city, I grew up in Northern Virginia. Rather than stay there, I wanted to go do something else. I was kind of burnt out of the cold and didn't like the traffic. So I had a little bit of money saved up. I was doing well, but I was spending money just as fast as I was making it as a 23-year-old kid. And so I had like $7,000 and I moved down to Austin, Texas with nothing to my name. So I had $7,000. I had some clothes in the back of my Mazda 3 in an empty apartment that I got, on like apartments.com. And I had to basically figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I knew I needed to, probably get a job, but I didn't want to work for somebody forever. So I started researching different business ideas, and at all of them, real estate wholesaling, made the most sense because you didn't need money, you didn't need experience, and you didn't need credit. And I didn't have any of those. So I qualified. That's when I really started going down the real estate path. And that was 2014. And then fast forward, here we are 7 years later. So that's kind of my upbringing, what got me into real estate. And it's been a crazy 7 years building what we have today, but it's been a fun ride.
Awesome. It's like you said, we can't really blame our parents for not knowing, especially when they're drilled left and right with conventional ways of doing things and not being financially independent, not being free, not being able to make money while they sleep, and not having to always trade time for money.
Exactly. And I think, a lot of people get into that victim mentality and, blame their parents, or they blame, they got bullied or whatever in school, and they let that just, continue to beat them down through life. And that's just a sad thing. There's got to be a statute of limitations for any childhood trauma you had. We're all adults now, so build a bridge and get over it. Go to therapy if you have to, whatever you got to do. Face your demons, because you're not going to be able to excel and be competitive in the business world if you've got those limiting beliefs and victim mentality. So
that's good. Yeah, that's something that I really want us to tap into later on in this episode, talking about limiting beliefs, because we all have them, and learning how to get past that it's pivotal. It can change your life.
That's the only way, or you're going to be stuck. The only difference between a multimillionaire and somebody that's sitting broke out on the streets most of the time is just what's in between their ears and the story that they continue to tell themselves every single day. So 100%.
Yeah. So how did the skills that you learn in those different jobs, those different positions help you with what you're doing now? Anything that stood out to you, or transferable skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, with the personal, I'd say anybody, if you're just getting started, like get a sales job, because you're going to be forced to conversate with all different kinds of people. You're going to have to, really learn how to, serve and manage a pipeline and close deals, which is important for any business. So best experience I had in terms of like corporate was I worked at Indeed.com. So I was an inside sales rep at Indeed, which is high pressure sales. It's like Wolf of Wall Street, minus the cocaine. It's just had, 60 calls a day, 120 minutes of talk time, really high quotas. And that I thrived in that kind of environment. So, just being able to not only get the sales acumen of being able to close deals over the phones, but also having the ability to see a world-class company, how they're structured, how they treat their employees, what their systems and processes are, was huge. Like my company, a lot of the same things we were doing at Indeed, I do in my company today. So I took a lot of those Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 philosophies and brought them into my small business. And I don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's big companies that have already figured out a lot of this stuff already.
That's good. Yeah. And if you just find the wheel and run with it, it makes your life easier.
Absolutely.
So obviously, like you've had a lot of these experiences. I'm sure it's the same way, where it's like each experience kind of builds on the other, and it makes you grow as a person and progress and everything. I'm wondering, like, what have been some of like your core rituals and things that have been part of you just having like a bulletproof mindset as you've grown? I can see, obviously, which is kind of funny, you have behind you photos that looks like things that probably motivate you. What do you what's your typical day look like? Do you do affirmations? Do you pray? Do you work out, like, to start your day? I would be wondering about like who Nick Perry is to make you this titan that you are, not only are, but are becoming still.
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. So, health is wealth at the end of the day. I work out 6 days a week, because if I don't, it's not only just for, being healthy, but also mental clarity. I'm a huge believer in, taking care of yourself first, right? So you're not going to be good to anybody else if you don't take care of yourself first. So in the mornings, first thing I do is I'm thanking God for all the abundance and beautiful things that I have in my life. And I did that even when I was broke, living in that 1-bedroom apartment. I was homeless for a while when I was like 18, living out of my car, and I'd still, say thank you for my car. Thank you for the clothes that I have in my trunk, right? So you don't have to be successful to be thankful. You need to have a heart of gratitude no matter what your situation is. Even when things are falling apart around you, having that heart of gratitude and really embodying that thankful spirit in the morning and thanking God for that is huge. And for me, I'm in faith too. Like, I always want to put God first. I'm focusing on my relationship with Him. Like, God will have me do today. I'm honoring Him. So that's a huge part of it. And then, like, on the affirmation side, I have this journal right here. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Project 369. What it makes you do is it makes you write down your goals 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times at night. So what you're doing, like you see, like I did it 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times at night. And so what that's doing is it's basically, conditioning your subconscious multiple times a day to go after it. And what you'll see is you'll start to see, opportunities that you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. Serendipitous, things start to occur in your life that, make those giant goals end up coming to fruition much more effortlessly than you would if you were just, trying to, memorize them. And it's good to get a pen and paper and do that every single day. So you can get that on Amazon. It's like $20 or something, but that I've been using that for a long time, and everything that I put in there always ends up coming true. So now I'm working on some major ones now, because I had the proof of concept with some smaller stuff that's ended up coming true and some bigger stuff. Now I'm working on some big monster goals. So those are some of the things that I do. Additionally, on top of that is I just want to continue to surround myself with high quality people, right? I'm a huge believer in, the 5 people you surround yourself with, you're going to end up being the average of that. So I'm very careful about who I spend time with.
Absolutely. I would love to ask you about that, actually. So obviously life is I think Dan Pena, I don't know if you've heard him, but he's,
of course, yeah.
Blunt, yeah. He said, he said that life isn't a journey. He said life is a process. And I think part of it is. But, I feel like we obviously, as we are progressing, some people don't. Some people aren't improving themselves and developing, and we kind of grow distant. And I would be curious to ask you, as far as like over these last maybe 5-10 years, have you been surrounding yourself, as far as those 5 people, with people that have been people that you grew up with and worked with, or is it more and more becoming people that you are in the real estate space?
Dude, I don't know anybody that I grew up with anymore. All the guys that I would hang out with in high school, we were all knuckleheads, man. We were all out, smoking weed and underage drinking and getting in fights and going to jail and all kinds of stuff. So no, I had to cut all those kind of people out of my life. And then even like the people on my, that were my best friends, I still don't even keep in contact with them anymore, because it's just they're not helping me in any kind of way. You know what I'm saying? So I don't hold on to relationships that are going to pull me backwards. I don't care how sentimental it gets and how you guys were boys when you were in the 10th grade and stuff like that. You guys got to continue to push yourself forward and closer to your goals. So I have a joke that I don't hang out with anybody I don't hang out with you if I didn't meet you at a paid mastermind. So like all my friends now all come from paid masterminds that, I spend tens of thousands of dollars to go to. Yeah. Those are the kind of people that, like, for me, most of my friends are all other business owners now that are either at my level or higher than me. And I want to continue to, foster those kind of relationships to help me get to where I go. And nobody's going to understand you better than another business owner, right? Like, I know the problems that Johnny's going through, and I can relate to him because I went through them too, and vice versa. So yeah, that's my joke, is I only hang out with you if I met you at a paid mastermind. Not really, but those are a great place to meet people and meet lifelong friends.
That's actually how I met Johnny. We met at the $1 Million Summit last year.
Exactly.
And just stayed in contact.
That's how we met. I was trying to think. I thought it was like, oh, maybe it might have been like a Facebook post or something. We were helping.
No, yeah. We both connected there and
Yeah.
just hit the ground running, and like we will call each other and bounce ideas of each other, just kind of check like, hey, how's your business going? How are things going? It's been, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, Nick. That's good.
I mean, I feel like this is a good area where I want to make sure to plug in like Seven Figure Cartel. That's why I joined it. It's not just to have the guidance of others, but also be around people that are like-minded, that are, you know, on the same path, because it can feel so lonely when people around you are not going in the same direction and they're not trying to improve themselves. I mean, it could be so hard. Like that's probably been one of the hardest things. I myself had like close friends that I gave them books. I showed them what I was doing. I gave them leads that were even skip trace and everything. And they just didn't want to go with it. But you know, getting around those people that have those same priorities is just so huge.
Yeah, they say you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. So getting right around the right people, obviously you guys hit it off and now you're doing podcasts together. Sounds like you're doing deals together. So that's a huge part of it. Just be cognizant of your circle. And then, yeah, like Seven Figure Cartel, we've created a, really badass community. It's all high level guys that are, scaling their business. They're in growth mode right now. They all have growth mindsets, and they're in there helping each other every single day. And that's been one of my biggest achievements that I'm proud of, is to be able to create a community, like-minded, real estate investors that are all moving in the same direction. The reason I called it the Seven Figure Cartel is because everybody that's in there I want everybody in there doing 7 figures plus as quickly as possible. And we already got some guys that are there, some guys that are well on their way. Johnny's well on his way right now. So yeah, it's been a blessing.
That's awesome.
I feel like this is a good time, Lewis, to like start pivoting towards like the passive income. Like obviously you built your business up to where obviously the whole team and everything, you guys are doing nationwide deals. What have been some things that you have really started dedicating your time to are now bringing you in passive income? Yeah.
So, I didn't do anything outside of wholesaling for like 5 years. I just dedicated, 80 hours a week, 100% to building my real estate company. I didn't want to get squirrel syndrome. I think that's a big problem a lot of entrepreneurs have, is they get shiny object syndrome. Now they want to start buying rentals. Now they want to do, e-com, and all that stuff's fine. I own all that stuff, but get really focused and get your business dialed in. And then what'll happen is once it's all dialed in, you're going to have so much cash coming in that it's not smart to continue to keep holding it. Right. So, once I got to the point where, I just had all this cash building up in my account, it's like, hey, well, I need to start making investments that are going to build me generational wealth. Wholesaling is great. It's a great vehicle to generate cash, but it's not going to get you wealthy. It'll get you rich, but it's not going to get you wealthy.
It's very transactional.
Very transactional. You turn your marketing off, or your team stops working, or you stop working, money stops. So one thing that my first passive income business that I did was trucking. So I ended up buying some 18-wheelers, and then, I went through the whole process of getting, my MC and my DOT, getting all the trucks set up. And then I leased my trucks out to a company that basically runs them. They have all the drivers. They take care of all the fuel, basically everything that you could think of, dispatching the trucks. So I'm completely hands off in that company, but I get a check every single week, right? So I get a check every single week for every single truck that I have that comes in. So I did that. I own like a lot of the Amazon FBA stores, the Amazon drop shipping stores, the e-commerce stores. So those are great. Additionally, I own a bunch of rental properties. So I have a rental portfolio, properties that we've been able to cherry pick from our wholesaling company. So pretty nice, rental portfolio on top of that. And then, I'm also involved in oil and gas. I own a bunch of oil and gas leases as well, which has been phenomenal. The returns on that are crazy. So oil and natural gas, I do both of those. I'm invested into some software companies. So I'm always just looking for smart places to deploy capital, right? Offset my taxes, be able to get a healthy, return in something that's safe, stable, that'll be around for the long term.
And I think I even heard you mention that you have been part of some syndication deals. That's awesome.
Correct. Yep. So syndications, multifamily syndications. I'm getting ready to do a mobile home syndication, where I'm gonna put my money into mobile home syndication. I love real estate. At the end of the day, I'm a business owner. I don't, put myself into a box, but real estate's still my favorite way to make money.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
So, and something funny, I guess the trucking business is like a tour, but for trucking, you're just renting out your truck to different companies.
That's exactly what it is. So, that's really good. I like that better than Toro. I'd looked at doing the Toro business for a while, but 18 wheelers made more sense than doing individual cars.
Mm-hmm. And COVID was a wake up call for a lot of people and a lot of businesses, and the trucking business was one that was always there.
Well, it got,
essential.
It's essential. And, in times of crisis, when things need to go from point A to point B, the rates go through the roof. So like we've been crushing it this year just because you guys have all probably seen, especially if you're in real estate, how broken the supply chain is, how long it takes, things to get from point A to point B. Well, they're trying to deploy these trucks. So the loads have gone through the roof in terms of price. So it's a great time to get into that business if you're looking for another opportunity. But again, real estate for me has been the core. So build one company. Once you got it going to where it doesn't need you and you have a ton of excess capital, then build the next company.
And to expand on that, what was it like for you to be able to build your team? Because I saw on a different episode, you like walk through the office pretty much and show your acquisitions, your disposition, transaction. How did you start that building phase? And also, where do you see things going?
Yeah, no, great question. So one perfect brick at a time is what I tell everybody, because, I think a lot of people get in and they're like, hey, I want to, completely, outsource this and be, passive, but it takes time to do that. It can be done. I mean, I live in Miami, Florida. My team's all in Austin, Texas right now, and it can be done, but it took me a while to get there. So my first hire was in acquisitions, somebody that came and was on the phones helping me talk to these leads because I didn't have enough time in the day, right? So you get to a point where you start getting really good at lead generation, and then it's just you and you're calling all these sellers and trying to sell the deals. And
tell me about it. Going through that right now.
Yeah. So we've all been through that, and you get to the point where you're just not enough hours in the day. You're working 18 hours a day, and you got to get some help. So you find a really, really good acquisitions, the critical first hire. If you get a good acquisitions in the real estate wholesaling business will make you 7 figures a year. Just one. I mean, our top guy brought in $1.2 million in assignment fees last year. So that's a very critical hire, is you get one of those people to help you, and then you can start to buy. That buys back some more of your time, and then you get another one. I usually say get a couple acquisitions, and then that's going to allow you to focus on dispositions, the other areas of the business, your finances, your marketing. Things start to normalize back out, and then what will happen is, once your acquisitions team gets really good, you're probably going to need some help in dispo, right? So you get somebody to help you out in dispo, and you get that person trained up to where they can start to take on the majority of the responsibilities in that department, and you can kind of get yourself out of that disposition role and continue to build out the team that way. So, right now we're pretty lean. We've got 5 acquisitions and 3 dispositions. And then I have a CEO that runs the entire company, and then myself. So I've had it to where we had almost 20 people in the office, and, it just gets more people, more problems, more headaches. So, we're extremely profitable. We have a really talented group of people in the office, and I'd rather do it that way, stay really tight, really lean, have a great group of people, and have a really nice net profit at the end of the month.
I have a question, and it's been something that I've been thinking about as I know that I'm going to be hiring. Obviously, when you have it where it's you and you're building this thing, and obviously this is something that maybe I need to improve on thinking, but I'm going to just go right to it. How do you avoid, and obviously it's also a vision thing, how do you avoid having where you're hiring somebody and they're not coming in thinking that they are part owner of the company and that they're going to direct it and everything when it's yours? You're the one that started it. You're the visionary and everything. I'm just curious, like with your experience and wisdom, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, we give them a base salary, right? So, when you give somebody a base salary, that kind of eliminates that from their mind. They're going to, if I'm paying you to do a job, that you're not the owner anymore, right? So, I would recommend, anybody that is hiring for acquisitions or dispositions, pay them a salary, because not only is it going to, get them out of that, entrepreneurial like mindset, but it will, give you more control to be able to dictate when they show up, when they go home. You have also, a security for them. So, it can be rough when you're just getting started into any new sales job. You want to give them some sort of financial cushion so that way they can be able to, pay their rent, get to work and back, things like that. And that's a big part of it. But just paying them a salary goes a long way. And a lot of it just comes down to you. We recruit most of our candidates through Indeed.com. So when you're hiring people off that, they don't come in usually thinking in that mindset.
That's good. Some good insiders, as you're giving them a base salary that helps them with their basic needs, and then you're incentivizing them with commission on top of that. I'm assuming too, so they keep that drive.
Yep. So we pay a low base, just basically enough for your essential needs, and then everything after that is really eat what you kill. So that's worked well for us. We've tried a bunch of different pay models, and the salary plus commission works the best.
I'm curious, how soon did you hire your first? When did you do your first hire? Like when you got started what was that timeline?
Yeah, I mean, my first hire, I was working when I started, my wholesaling company. So I had, basically a VA that would work full time for me while I was at Indeed, and they would take all the calls, do all the initial intake, and then book me on appointments at night and on the weekends. And so that's how I originally got started. Once I left corporate America, I had, I was so busy with my real estate company, I hired acquisitions pretty quickly after that, like a full-time acquisitions, and they were going on appointments, and I was doing dispositions and other things in the business.
Would you, looking back, like in the first few years of like you building like your company, would there be anything different that you would have done with your hiring?
Yeah, I wouldn't have hired so quickly. There was a period in 2018 where I screwed up really badly. And, I just got into my mind. I was like, hey, we're going to scale this thing to the moon. And so I turned up my marketing, started getting a ton more leads coming in, started bringing in, a bunch of people. So I went from 9 to 19 people within like 2 months. And what happened was my net profit went way down. My headaches went way up. And so what I tell everybody is like, when you're hiring, hire slow. You don't have to do it overnight. You just find the best person for that job, fill that position, and then wait to see how things play out for at least a quarter until you go and hire more people, right? Because if you don't have everything dialed in with that one hire and then you try to hire another one, you're trying to scale chaos. So that's why I say lay one perfect brick at a time, let the mortar on that brick dry, and then lay another perfect brick. And that's what's been successful for us. So I had to tear it down, build it back up slowly. And, that if I had to do it differently, I had to learn that mistake the hard way. And then also it's all about quality, right? If you find a team of, rock stars, you're going to make a lot of money, but B players do not cut it in this business. The leads are too expensive. The opportunities cost is too high. That say if you have a B player on your team, well, the lead that you would have locked up for $70,000, the guy that's a B player that's handling that lead, he's going to fumble and he's not going to get it. So if you look at that in your business and you start to understand the opportunity cost, right, that person could be losing you millions of dollars in deals from you just not having somebody that is, top of the top. So we're very, very strict on performance and, our acquisitions and our dispositions. So everybody's got to be on point at all times. We do multiple trainings with them. So those are some of the things that, I would say messed me up is, I hired some people just to kind of fill a seat early on, and that's a mistake.
That's good. I like the analogy of the brick and mortar and using that in a team. I think that's good. I have a question, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how you go about that for lead generation, and then how you go about that for putting the property under contract. So we all know that it's like a very competitive market all over the country. A lot of buyers, not enough inventory in most markets. What's your competitive advantage over your competitors in lead generation? Like, what's your team doing that's helping you? And or even channels that you see that are working, and then when you do get those leads, how are you able to close them before someone else comes and gives them an offer?
Yeah, man, great question. So we do all digital marketing, all inbound marketing, primarily PPC. So Google, Bing. And here's the analogy I'll give you on that is that's a huge reason why we're killing it right now is because, it only takes us 12 leads to get a contract within our company, right? So if you compare that to some of the other marketing channels out there, cold calling, RVM, SMS, it takes you 40 to 60 leads to get a contract. So my guys are having to work 4 times less hard than your team. So it's not that my guys are 4 times better. It's that they're having to work 4 times less to get the same amount of output, right? Everybody wants to look at what's their cost per lead. Well, what's your return on time? One thing that I measure is how many man hours does it take me to get a contract? So it takes us about 8 man hours to get a contract, right? So I'm looking at that versus looking at what's the cost per lead. I want to know how quickly can I get these contracts in. So now we're at the point, we've got it pretty good to work. You're good, 3 to 4 contracts a day. We're already at 3 right now, and it's 1:41 my time. They'll probably get another 2 or 3 today. So that's a huge competitive advantage is that we just have really high quality leads. And then here's the thing, guys, is like we do tons of trainings. I got a badass team. All that's great. But at the end of the day, it's about speed to lead. A lot of the times these sellers are going to sell to the first person they talk to. High probability that's the case. I would say about 40 to 50% of the time, they're just going to sell it to whoever calls them first. So in addition to our team being really good at the sales process, rapport building and everything, we're really quick on getting to our leads. So, we have it on our sales dashboard. It says the number of untouched leads we have in our database. So if that number stays like above like 1 for, more than 10 or 15 minutes, Brandon's usually saying something like, "Yeah, hey guys, we got untouched leads. Let's go.
Just keep it moving.
Keep it moving."
Yeah, that's good. And so then once you get them on the phone, you try to put it on their contract, pass it to your different team members and get the deal on their contract. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. So, we never give a contract unless the seller is on the phone and in front of their email. The reason for that being is, if you just send your contract or you give your verbal offer, that's when they're just going to take that and they're going to go shop, right? If you get them on the phone and say, "Hey, great news, the underwriter, I think they got the numbers back for you. Are you in front of your email? Do you have email on your phone?" And as long as they can get in front of their email, you can go ahead and hit send on that DocuSign and then have them open that DocuSign while you're on the phone. Just say, hey, Mr. Seller, and I'll go ahead and review it for you. The underwriter, it's a 2-page document, and I'll answer any questions. So you're doing it live, because what's going to happen is it goes from just a conversation to an event. Now they got a contract sitting in front of them, and they've got to sit there and talk to you on the other end of the phone. And that's when your real objections are going to come up. So we can go ahead and handle those objections in live time and get them to go ahead and initial and sign that DocuSign. So once we have that signed DocuSign, we're immediately setting up next steps. So we're letting the seller know that next steps in the process is I'm going to hand you over to our client care coordinator. That's our dispo team. We just call them the client care coordinators. And they're going to go ahead and walk you through, what we need to make sure that we can get everything done as quickly as possible. And they'll do a live transfer from the acquisitions to the dispositions. And then, the dispositions will basically take over the rapport and the conversation and that seller from then until we have money in the bank.
I'm curious, obviously you talked about like earlier with your journal and your vision and long-term goals and everything. Do you see this business being something that you're going to keep lifelong?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it just because it's pretty passive for me at this point. My goal is like, I'll probably end up taking like a year off here at some point soon. So like, I'm really passionate about like 7-figure Cartel right now. My goal is to get like all the members in there, like get them all over 7 figures. And then I'm probably taking like a year off just to go travel, do some bucket list items. You know, I want to get my pilot's license, things like that. You know, I've got enough passive income at this point to where I could do that now, but you know, I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. So my business runs without me. So I won't shut my single family company down. It would just be dumb to do that because it runs pretty seamlessly without me.
How have you been able to get past your limited beliefs, and what are some of those limited beliefs? Because it's not easy to just be like, yeah, like you're saying, just put it all aside and just go travel, go to the world.
Yeah.
Go see the world, get your pilot license. How do you get past that? Like, what would you say to those people that are like, yeah, you know what? I want to hire that first person to bring on board as an acquisitions agent, or I want to be able to get to spend 5 years without chasing squirrels and get past limited beliefs.
Yeah. So, I mean, for limiting beliefs, what you guys got to realize is like entrepreneurship is scary. Just know that going in. Most people can't handle the problems and the fear that true entrepreneurship takes. So you got to be that person that can actually handle that. And for me, you know, when it comes to handling like fear, is just, you know, I have a strong conviction of what I want for my life, and that overrides any of the current fear that I have in the moment. You guys know how to lock up deals. You know how to make money. Like, worst thing that happens, you just bounce back. Like, you could take it all away from me right now, and I'll be back. I'm coming back. It's okay. So I don't really live with that, like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to lose everything, because if I lost everything, I'll fucking come back. I just kill it. If you strip it all away from me right now, I'll get back on the phone with sellers. I'll lock up deals. I'll sell the deals. So I'm not worried about ever being broke. You guys know how to make money, so you don't have to worry about, you know, starving for long. Like I guarantee you're going to get a check. So that's a big part of it right there. And then, you know, like, self-limiting beliefs can come in all kinds of forms, because like, you know, nobody had a perfect family. Nobody had a perfect childhood, right? You know, we all have our hangups, you know, growing up, and a lot of that, you know, just needs to be fucking dealt with. Like, you guys are grown, you know, we're all, you know, grown now, you know, men and women. So, you know, be courageous and deal with like, you know, oh yeah, you know, my dad used to beat me, or my mom used to do this, or, you know, I got bullied, or whatever it is, whatever your life hang up is, you know, take responsibility and look yourself in the mirror. You know, I don't care what you got to do. Talk to a counselor, get yourself in, you know, plugged in with some good people, and handle your shit. Like I said earlier, there's a statute of limitations for childhood trauma and limiting beliefs. You can't let that continue to go, you know, to be in your life.
Good.
Yeah.
Either we play the victim or we pursue a victor mentality.
That's right. I mean, another thing too, man, is honoring the promises that you make to yourself. That's what breeds confidence at the end of the day, right? And it could be little things like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym every day, right? And if you skip out on the gym, nobody's going to say anything to you, but you know you didn't go to the gym, and that's robbing a little bit of your confidence, right? You said you're going to do something at work, you're going to call 5 sellers or whatever it is. Make sure you honor those promises that you make to yourself, because you're only hurting yourself if you don't. So that's another big part of developing confidence and being able to go out and feel strong when you're taking on big challenges and big risks.
Awesome. John, you have any last questions you want to ask?
Oh yeah. So what I'll say is, like, it's, at the end of the day, it's emotion. It's like, you got to know if this is like really a threat. Is this really something that's, you know, going to be harming you, or is it just, again, it's just in your head, which 99% of the time it is. And, you know, like in one of our coaching calls, obviously I told you, like, you know, do you still have fear? So I feel like this is a good opportunity to kind of circle back to that, is that what you said in that was that you do, because you are like continually pushing that comfort zone further and further out, right?
Yeah, but you get numb to it, right? After you say, you know, what used to scare me, like I would be, you know, trembling, doesn't scare me anymore. Like, the more you continue to face those fears in business and overcome them, the less that fear has a hold on. The things that used to scare me don't scare me anymore. You know, so, but I'm always looking for things that scare me, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm looking for that next thing that scares the shit out of me, that next major investment that's like, oh my goodness, right? Yeah. So I'm continuing to take those fears and those risks. I'm almost a junkie to a certain extent. Like, if I'm not living with that fear, then I know I'm staying in my comfort zone, and that's not a healthy place to be.
What has been a home run deal that you feel like you have done, whether on the sense of fulfillment that you got from it, like I really helped this seller out, or profit margin for you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, we did a really cool deal in Denver, Colorado. It was right in a great neighborhood in Denver, and the seller, she was living in a trailer in the driveway with her pet raccoon, and she couldn't sell the house because it had a ton of liens on it, like probably the dirtiest title I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, mortgage liens, bail bonds liens, contractor liens. Like, this thing was messed up to the point that no other it had been under contract with 10 other investors, and nobody could cure title. Nobody could help this lady. And she couldn't go into the house because it was basically so dilapidated that she could no longer live in there. And she was really struggling financially. So we went and, this is the power of networking. Somebody that I met at a mastermind was one of the top like EXP brokers in Denver. And that guy knew everybody because he was like one of the top dudes in Denver. And so this guy got me plugged in with an attorney that was able to get in there. And this guy specialized in this kind of, clearing of titles. Title companies couldn't do it, but he was able to get in there for $5,000, remedy title on this property, and we're able to close. We made a $175,000 assignment fee. And that was a really rewarding deal just because, the amount of work that it took to get it and just having the network to be able to get it done. So that was like, man, that paid for that mastermind and, then some, just being able to meet those kind of people. So
that's awesome.
I'd say that was one that always stands out to me.
People couldn't either. You had 10 people that locked it up and weren't able to help her, and you were able to do that. So it's like not just the financial part, but you helped that lady at the end of it.
Big time. Yep. Now she's got a new place. She's happy. So those are the kinds of things that you as an investor, you're helping people. Never forget that at the end of the day. Not only are you helping the sellers, you're helping the buyers feed their families. You're helping the title company stay in business, all the contractors in the area, all the Home Depots. Like, you guys are a big part of making the economy move. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, no, I love what we do.
So how can people stay in contact with you, learn what you're up to, if they have any questions or maybe something that stood out to them from this podcast?
Yeah, no, just reach out to me on Instagram. So it's just Nick Perry, REI. DM me on there, or you can check out the link in my bio if you're looking to jump into the 7-figure cartel. We're getting ready to raise the prices on it soon, but you can go ahead and check it out if you want to get in there. I know Johnny's crushing it right now, so he's got big things. So be checking on Johnny here later this year. He's going to be a killer. He's killing it already, but we're going to 7 figures here soon.
That's awesome. And just so for those people that are like, you want to help other investors get into that 7-figure, can you take this time to elaborate a little more? Like, what does it look like behind the scenes? Is this like a year-long commitment?
No, so it's all month to month, but basically what we did was we laid out our entire business blueprint from A to Z, every single department. We laid it out into video tutorials so you can go in there and do it at your own pace. And then I've taken, tons and tons of courses and been to tons of masterminds. And the missing component that I saw from people that were successful and not successful is just that additional accountability and help, right? So we've all taken a course and not done anything with it, or you didn't feel like you got what you paid for. So what we did on top of not only giving you our entire business like in a box with all of our documents and videos and everything, is we do a bi-weekly mastermind, which is basically just an accountability checkup where we're looking into, hey, how's the business running right now? And I want to be able to, I want to take the journey with, right? So my goal is that everybody that comes through the mastermind gets to 7 figures plus in the real estate wholesaling business as quickly as possible. So I'm working with, Johnny right now. We meet every couple of weeks just to figure out, hey, where's he at right now in his business? What kind of, roadblocks do we anticipate coming up? And how can we make sure that, we keep everything moving at, warp speed in the business. So that's it. And then we got a really badass Facebook group. It's all high level guys in there, just dropping a ton of, knowledge and asking some really, really intelligent questions. And it's kind of become a community. Getting ready to do some meetups in Austin later this year, where we'll have the members come out and actually get to spend a couple of days, doing panels with my guys and being able to see, exactly, the inner workings of what we do, and have an opportunity to hang out in person and really pour back into everybody that's in the community.
Awesome. That's good. Yeah, it sounds like you're really invested into it, and you want to see your students succeed and crush it.
Big time. I mean, I couldn't put my name on something if they weren't going to be successful. So my goal is get everybody successful, and then I'm taking off. I'm out. So I'm taking a year off.
Yeah. So speaking about that, what's one bucket list item that you want to cross? You mentioned your pilot license. Anything else?
Yeah. So I want to learn Spanish. I'm down here in Miami, and not knowing Spanish is not helping me at all.
No bueno.
No bueno. Yeah. So I want to be able to also have the opportunity to, get into like more like volunteer type work and things like that. Be able to, travel quite a bit. I'll be traveling a lot. Get plugged in with the church doing volunteer work, just learning different skills and kind of unplug for a little bit, and then reset, and then come back with a vengeance and get to that next level.
Awesome.
What kind of volunteer work would you do with the church?
The church that we do now, they build houses for people down in Mexico, Honduras, different countries in Central America. So like I'd go down there and spend 6 weeks, doing manual labor and hanging out. Yeah, so I wouldn't mind doing that. So just fun stuff like that, that's rewarding, personally, more than just business and money all the time. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it having you on here. And Johnny, great job. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this interview and got some value out of it to help you in your real estate investing journey. If you can take just a minute, please do us a favor and leave a review. Hit the like button on iTunes or whatever platform you listen to our podcast on, and subscribe so you can hear future episodes. Also, don't forget to check out our Real Estate Home Runs podcast community Facebook group, where you are able to connect with some great listeners. If you're an investor who is crushing it and want to share some information centered around passive income in real estate, please contact us. Hit those home runs, and we will see you next time.